Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another Planetarium show. My name is Jessica. I'm the director of the Planetarium, and with me tonight is one of our students who I will let say hi and introduce himself.
Hi, I'm Len. I'm a student here at UMD and I'm studying physics and astronomy,
Very fitting. I think you're like our only actual astronomy person on staff right now.
which is kind of funny actually.
But I love it. We get so many unique perspectives.
Yeah, it's always fun seeing especially what Braden brings with the music side of it. I'm like, that's so
Yeah.
fun. It's cool.
Oh
Yeah.
my God, the show he's working on, a little teaser for everyone. He's working on a show that shows the interconnection between um, music and kind of math and astronomy because in early Greek philosopher times they used music in place of math, and yeah, I'm so excited, so excited. Okay, already getting sidetracked. That's fine. It's what we do best. So since we are still at the beginning of the month, tonight's show is our monthly constellation show, where we'll show you what stars and constellations you can see up tonight. Now, if you have any questions throughout the show, feel free to leave them down in the comments. Both myself and Lynn will be keeping an eye on that. And just remember, if there's a delay in us answering questions, there's just a general delay in the stream. But we will make sure that we get answers questioned at the end if we do miss any. All right, well, let me put this up. Pin myself there. All right. So, for anyone who this might be your first virtual constellation show with us, we use this really cool program called Stellarium to do these. It's basically a planetarium for your computer. You put in your date, time, and location, and it shows you what the sky looks like. So, we have it set up for right now in Duluth, Minnesota, since that's where we're located. And we are finally getting some later sunsets. No more 4 p.m. sunsets for us. I am so happy. But that does mean right now the sun is still up. So we are going to have to go a little bit later into the evening in order, it's a little too fast, in order to see what's up tonight. Now, if you're not in the Duluth area, as long as you're in the northern hemisphere, the sky will look pretty similar to you. You'll still see pretty much the same constellations and stars and things. But if you want to see exactly how it would be different for your location, you can always get Stellarium for yourself. It is completely free, and there is a link down in the video description. Now, once the sun has set, you can see over in the west, we are seeing Mercury and Venus up in the evening sky. And let's let it go a little faster. And we will
Speaking of things
stop.
in the sky, really quick, we do have a question.
Mhm.
What might be the easiest globular cluster to view just after dark?
Ooh, this time of year, I'm not sure because my go-to globular cluster is M13, the Great Globular Cluster of Hercules. But that's more of a summertime, um, late spring and summer object. I'm not sure now, but maybe at the end, if we have time, I can show you how you could search for that sort of thing in here. All right. So we have fast forwarded to just after 9 o'clock here. It's when the sun sets. We get some pretty dark skies here. You can see we've still got Venus very bright and up in the west. So if you've been seeing a really bright object over in the west, you're seeing Venus. And we're going to head our way over to the north to get us started. I always like starting these constellation and night sky tours in the north because for most people, these constellations that I'm about to show you are always up in the north all year round. So they're a really good kind of first step in learning the night sky because they're always going to be there. And then I'll show you how you can use these constellations to then help you find other ones in the sky. So we're going to begin with these 7 stars here that are pretty high in the northeast sky this time of year. This is, of course, our Big Dipper with the handle and the cup. Now, the Big Dipper itself is technically not a constellation. It is an asterism. So that means it is a smaller, more recognizable group of stars within a larger constellation. In this case, the Big Dipper is the 7 brightest stars in the Greek constellation of Ursa Major, or the Big Bear. So to see the bear, we're going to have to add in some other stars. The handle of our dipper is the tail of the bear, and then we have the back, ear, nose, chest, front legs, belly, and back legs, and then back up to the tail. And I'll go ahead and turn those lines on for us. So that is our Big Bear. Now, you may know, since we have a Big Dipper and a Big Bear, that we also have a Little Dipper and a Little Bear. And they can be a little bit more tricky to find because the stars aren't quite as bright. But I'm going to teach you how to do that. What we're going to do is use the Big Dipper here to help us. So once you find the Big Dipper, you go to the front 2 stars in the cup of the Big Dipper. These are the pointer stars, because if you connect them in a line, they point you to this star. And this star is Polaris, or you may know it as the North Star. And it's the end of the handle of the Little Dipper. So here's the whole Little Dipper. We have the handle and the cup right here. 7 stars, just like the Big Dipper. Although for most people, these 4 stars in the middle here are going to be extremely difficult to see. Most people will only see Polaris and these front 2 stars, just because they're the brighter ones in there. And most people, unfortunately, live in what we call dark polluted or light polluted skies, where we have things like house lights and street lamps that make the night sky brighter and make it harder to see those faint stars. But if you can get out to where it is really dark, you'll be able to see all 7 stars in the Little Dipper. I've actually only been able to do it once in my life, and that was when we were up at the end of the Gunflint Trail a couple years ago. Gorgeous dark skies, and I was able to see all 7 stars for the first time ever. It was pretty incredible. Now, these 7 stars are also our Little Bear. No additional stars here to add in. We have our bear tail, back legs, body, front legs, and then we imagine a head right here. And I'll go ahead and turn that on and turn our art on as well. So those are our 2 Greek constellations of Ursa Major and Ursa Minor, or the Big Bear and the Little Bear. Now you may notice that these bears look a little funky. Bears, as I know them, don't have long tails like this. Bears have stubby little tails. But the Greeks did have an explanation for this. These 2 bears started out as humans. They were, the Big Bear was a woman named Callisto, and the Little Bear was her son Argus. And they both got turned into bears from human. And Zeus wanted to keep them safe so that they wouldn't get hurt while they were on Earth in bear form. So he decided to put them up in the night sky. And he did this by picking them up by their tails and spinning them around and flinging them into the night sky. And that process of being spun and flung by their tails is what stretched out those bear tails. And so that's why we have 2 bears with unusually long tails in the north. Now, yes?
Yeah, we have another question.
Okay.
If we were to describe the perimeter of a constellation like the borders of a state, then what would the asterisms be?
Ooh, maybe counties?
That's kind of what I was thinking too, or like some like unofficial like.
Yeah, like unofficial, like we call like the Twin Cities.
Yeah, like the Twin Cities or something. It's like, yeah, something not like official lines.
Yeah, I think that's the best way of putting it, is an unofficial kind of grouping, like the Twin Cities. For some reason, what popped into my head immediately was the Triangle in North Carolina, which is Raleigh, Durham, and Chapel Hill. I don't know why. I haven't lived in North Carolina since I was like 13. But that is what immediately came into my head.
I mean, it works though.
So yeah, that would be my guess. Although that's a really interesting perspective. I've never thought of it that way, but I like it. That might be something we should add in because that kind of helps with some analogies there. I like it.
Yeah, it's like a good metaphor.
Yeah. Okay. So over here in the north, we've got two more constellations that I want to point out to you. Before we do that, though, you may have noticed that there is this fuzzy band arching across the sky, kind of going north into the northwest. And as we turn around, you'll see it continues over into the south. This fuzzy band is our Milky Way galaxy, the galaxy we live in. Now, our galaxy is home to about 200 billion stars. And most of those stars are too far away for us to see as these nice little pinpoints. The stars you see up in the night sky are really just the closest couple thousand stars to us. Everything else, it's too far away. So all of that light kind of blends together to create this fuzzy haze. And it's shaped into a band because our galaxy is shaped like a disk, like a frisbee, and we're in the middle of it. And so we're seeing all of that light concentrated in the disk where we are as well. Now, I point this out because the next constellation I want to show you is in the Milky Way. Although, again, this is another thing that a lot of people not have the chance to see because you do have to have pretty dark skies to be able to see the Milky Way. And especially in the summer, if you're able to get out to dark skies, please do and try and go see the Milky Way because especially in the summer, it is stunning and definitely worth a late night trip out into the countryside. All right, enough rambling on the Milky Way. Our next constellation, we are going to use the Big Dipper and those pointer stars once again. This time, we are going to follow those pointer stars past Polaris and into the Milky Way, where we find this W shape. And this is the Greek constellation of Cassiopeia, the Queen. Now, this one has a couple of different ways of interpreting her. I'll show you how I picture her, and then I'll turn the art on and you can see how the program draws her. I picture her as if she's sitting in her throne and we're getting kind of a profile view, a side view. She's also upside down this time of year. So the star I highlighted is her head, and then we have her back, upper legs, lower legs, and big long clown feet. And that is our queen, Cassiopeia, which is relatively close to how they draw it, but you'll see, depending on which artist drew the constellation art, there are many different ways that you can create these constellations because in a lot of cases it's like this, trying to turn a W into a woman. There's some artistic liberties there. All right. Now, the last constellation that I want to point out here in the north, we are once again going back to those pointer stars. And this time, instead of going all the way to Polaris, we are going to stop at the very first star we come across. This is the tip of the tail of Draco the dragon. So we follow his long winding tail around to his big full belly and over to his eyes and his mouth, and he's breathing fire all over the northwest right now. And so that is Draco the dragon there, which I always love. All right. Well, with that, I'm going to turn our attention now over to the southwest, because despite it technically being spring, and we finally getting some non-winter weather here in northern Minnesota, we do still have our winter hexagon that's prominent just after sunset. So in case you haven't heard of the winter hexagon constellations, I want to show those to you. And they're named that because there are 6 constellations. Sorry, our window's open and it can get a little loud with passing cars. They are 6 constellations that are primarily best viewed in the winter. but as you can see here in early spring, they're still there. The most famous of which is, of course, Orion the Hunter here, found with his 3 belt stars and his 4 other stars that make kind of a rectangle around that. So we have his shoulders, his knees, belt, sword, and then either a shield and a club, or a bow and some arrows. Now, Orion has a couple of hunting dogs with him. To find the first, we're going to take Orion's belt and have it point us over to this bright star here that our program labels for us. This is Sirius. Sirius is the brightest star in the night sky, and it is part of Canis Major, the big dog. Now, this is definitely a case where I draw this differently than the program. I see Sirius, or the big dog, as if Sirius is his eye. And so we have kind of his ears and his mouth and body and legs. But you can see that this draws it as if Sirius is the jewel on his collar. And then we have head and body and legs. Absolutely fine, however you prefer to see it. Now, again, because we have a big dog, that does mean we also have a little dog. To find it, we're going to do some star hopping. Starting at Sirius, we're going to hop across the Milky Way to this bright star called Procyon, and it is part of Canis Minor, the little dog. And let me just turn this one on for you guys. It's kind of hard to see because the star label is on, so let me turn those off real quick. There we go. Yeah, it's 2 stars. It's a line. We could joke that this must be like a wiener dog or something, but yeah, that's Canis Minor. Very, very prime example of needing lots of imagination with these constellations. Now, next up, we're going to go back to Orion, back to his belt, and this time we're going to follow it the other direction until we get to this V shape. This V is the head of Taurus the bull. This bright star here is Aldebaran, that is the red angry eye of the bull. We have his snout, horns, and then his body stretches out this way, looking like this. Now, currently, you can find the planet Venus over in the constellation of Taurus. And if we zoom on in here to make it a little bit easier to see, you'll also see that Venus is right next to the Pleiades star cluster, which is a fabulous object to see in the night sky because it is super bright. You can see it from just about anywhere, even in pretty heavily light polluted skies. You may have heard Pleiades, you may have also heard the Seven Sisters. That name comes because for most people, they see 7 stars in this group. Some people only see 6. But this is what we call an open star cluster. So there are under 200 stars in this cluster. We just see the 7 brightest with our naked eye here on Earth. And Venus is hanging out right next to it right now. All right, 2 constellations left. Heading above Taurus, where one of his horns reaches, we can see the squished pentagon. This is always like my least favorite of the winter hexagon. This is Auriga, the charioteer. I see it as a wheel, the basket of the chariot, and then that's Auriga's head peeking out over the top. And lastly, in between Auriga and our little dog is one last group of stars, which is the Gemini twins, Castor and Pollux. Castor has a long body and short little legs. Pollux has a short body and long legs, and they are arm in arm walking along the Milky Way. And you can see that Mars is currently hanging out with the Gemini twins. So if you head out and find them, if you see this little red thing next to the Gemini twins, that's the planet Mars. All right, and I will turn on the art for those guys. So again, this is our winter hexagon of Orion the Hunter, Taurus the Bull, Auriga the Charioteer, the Gemini twins, the little dog, and the big dog. Now, of course, since it is no longer winter, I can't end here tonight without showing you some spring constellations that are finally making their appearance in the night sky. So the first one up is Leo the Lion. Now, here's the deal. Everyone will always tell you to look for Leo, you want to look for the backwards question mark in the sky. The problem is, in dark skies, with hundreds or thousands of stars visible, you can make out a couple of different backwards question marks. So, here's the trick to finding the correct one. You're going to use the Big Dipper to help you. We're going to take the cup of the dipper here and use it to make an arrow. And that arrow is going to point you to the correct backwards question mark. And this is Leo the Lion. So we have his head and mane. This bright star is Regulus, that's the heart of the lion, and then his body stretches out this way. And there is Leo. And lastly, which I always struggle in this program to see it, in between Leo and the Gemini twins, you may notice this faint little kind of Y shape here, and I'm going to go ahead and turn it on. This does an X shape, but it's still close enough. This is Cancer the Crab, and I really like this one because right in between his little crab claws is another little star cluster. This is the Beehive cluster, which is an open cluster, so it doesn't satisfy the question of a good globular cluster. Like the Pleiades, it's another open cluster, but it is one that you can see with your naked eye. You do have to have pretty dark skies, though. Now, both Leo and Cancer and Draco the Dragon are all associated with the story of Hercules. Now, Hercules himself will be up a little bit later. He's more, as I said, a late spring and summer constellation. But each of these other constellations, Cancer, Leo, and Draco, are all part of the 12 labors of Hercules. So Hercules is half god, and this means he has super strength. This super strength makes a lot of people scared of him, and he doesn't like that because he's a pretty good dude. So he ends up asking a friend of his, who is a king, what can I do to help make people not afraid of me? And the king gives him these 12 tasks, which are now known as the 12 labors of Hercules. These 12 tasks to complete in order to prove that he's a good person. One of those tasks involved getting a golden apple from a special tree that was guarded by Draco the Dragon. Another task was to slay the great Nemean lion, which is Leo. And a third task was to slay the Hydra, but during that fight, he got distracted by little Cancer the Crab. So all of those are associated with Hercules. You can actually find a lot of the characters in the Hercules story throughout the year. But those are the ones that I wanted to highlight right now. All right, we got a little bit of time, so I got asked about a globular cluster. Let's see if we can find that. Showed me that one in particular. Let's see if we can find a good one. Let's turn on Deep Sky Objects. And this is really cool. And then I'm also going to, what I do for these streams is I turn off the information just because, as you can see, it gets really, really a lot of information there. And what's really cool is once you have things like this on, you can go click on one, and it'll give you information about it. So this could be a way of finding, you know, a good globular cluster, which I don't seem to be succeeding at right now. Lynn, do you know any off the top of your head?
Oh gosh, I sure don't know.
Oh, okay, so Hercules is starting to show up right over the eastern horizon. He's not going to be a good one to look for yet, because it is still very low. But yeah, I don't see any others right now. So I think these are all open clusters. But that is the power of, software like this. You can plan out, trying to find certain things, and this can show you when and where to look in the sky. It's really great. And again, completely free. Link in the video description. All right, well, with that, let me switch back over. And let's see if we have any other questions. The phrase I've heard for the open cluster is galactic cluster, since most are young star forming in the plane. Oh, I actually have not heard that before. That's really cool, though. I mean, it makes sense. All right. Well, since we are towards the end, if anyone has any last questions, now is a good time to go ahead and leave those in the comments. In the meantime, I'll show you our schedule for the upcoming week. So for our in-person shows at the Planetarium, Friday we are doing Expedition Moons. Saturday at 2 p.m. is our family show, Hercules and Other Superhero Stars. And at 7 p.m. is our general public show, Dynamic Earth. And then you can always come back here in a week, next Wednesday, for our next live stream, which is our monthly Ask an Astronomer segment. Which I have to say, I always love those. It's fun to just kind of get on and talk about cool stuff.
They're fun because we always get off topic.
I mean, that's literally kind of the show. We get to talk unscripted.
Yeah, it's really
Schedule for the Artemis 2 launch. I have not. I know the crew was just announced, but I think we're still like a year out. I should know this better than I do, but I don't.
Yeah, it's somewhere like a year from now. I don't know it very well either.
Yeah. But the crew's been announced, which is really cool. All right, well, I think we will wrap it up there then. So thank you everyone so much for joining us. We hope you had fun with the show. As always, we do this show every month, as you know, the stars and constellations we see do change monthly. But yeah, we hope to see you again here. And in the meantime, have a wonderful rest of your week. So bye everyone.